How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Fordham Firesides. We're a little bit late here, but we finally are doing our second part to our Game of Thrones podcast series. Dave is back. We're going to talk about our thoughts on Game of Thrones Season 8, the series finale to the biggest TV show phenomenon of probably our lifetimes.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest shows ever made.
Yeah, for sure.
Dave.
I think this last season definitely cements that.
Yeah. Dave, did you like this season?
All right. Well, I wanna keep things relatively positive just because of all the criticism it's already received. I, as always, enjoyed watching Game of Thrones. I enjoyed waiting till every Sunday at 9 p.m. sitting down with my friends and watching what was basically an hour to an hour and a half of cinematic beauty. I mean,
Sure.
I felt like I was sitting down and watching a movie every week, so I enjoyed that aspect of it.
It's a big event.
Of course, I was disappointed by a lot of the writing, how some character arcs were developed and finished. I was underwhelmed by certain choices by the writers to have certain characters do certain acts, like having Arya kill the Night King, for instance. I felt from a narrative perspective that was just unearned.
Yeah.
It seemed almost random. But, I mean, the acting was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. The music was superb. The cinematography, the production value, all absolutely amazing.
The effects,
yeah. I mean, you got to balance the two out. I'm not going to... I think because of what this season could have been, I am disappointed.
Yeah.
And I will always compare what I wanted it to be to what it actually was. And in that comparison, yeah, I'm disappointed.
Yeah. I will say it's not the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But I will say, without a doubt, it is the worst final season of a show I've ever seen. And it's arguably one of the worst seasons of one of my favorite shows, like including all of my favorite shows.
Wow. Harsh.
I think it's not good at all. I think there's redeeming moments, like you mentioned. The visual of the show is really good. I think they nailed it with some of those, like some of the imagery. But I think for a show that was built up and made great based on how great its writing was, like season 1. It would skip over battle scenes, like Tyrion gets knocked out, but I don't care because that's not why the show is good. But for the writing to be that bad, like it's not even generic fantasy; it's just a complete mess.
Yeah,
and it's a shame because by the time the show ended, I didn't care. I mean, obviously I like Game of Thrones; I want to see how it ended, but I honestly after that third episode, which some people still like, which baffles me honestly. I don't know. I was just like, whatever, we'll see what happens, and I saw what happens, and it wasn't much better, and the entire thing is just kind of a train wreck.
Yeah. After they killed the Night King halfway through the season, the enemy that was being established as the primary threat for the entirety of the show, once they made that decision to kill him halfway through the season, part of me was like, okay, maybe that threat isn't entirely dealt with, and they're going to come back miraculously with some sort of cool writing that we haven't seen
some
since
twist,
season
something
4,
with
but
Bran.
You never know. Oh, yeah.
But
what a waste of just establishing him as this like magical character who's going to be this huge player in the war against the darkness, and just does nothing.
I know. I want to say this is that the whole Night King thing with Arya, I still think is probably the worst thing in the entire show, hands down. Like it is so bad. It's like, all right. So the first episode's fine. It sets things up, brings people together. It feels on par with season 7, which I mentioned in the previous podcast. I didn't like that much. And then the second episode, especially in retrospect, I also don't like it all because it's like they're stalling. They're not doing anything. It's just like, oh, let's look at all these characters having fun one last time before they maybe die. And it's the most like fan servicey nonsense. And this is like worse than Beyond the Wall level of nonsense for me. For me, there was great moments. I loved Brienne getting knighted and stuff. Like these are great moments that could work in different episodes, but when you have an entire episode that is just this, that feels like a waste, especially how rushed the rest of the season felt. Like what were they even thinking? And then the battle comes along and I think that's the worst episode in the entire show to date.
More so than Beyond the Wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I'll
it has all the
hear you
same.
out.
It has the same problems as Beyond the Wall, which is like dumb death fake outs. But imagine that for the entire episode, because battle starts out cool, right? Where Red Woman shows up, lights their swords on fire and whatever. But then you get to the battle, and it's like you cut from like one character almost dying after another and miraculously like surviving, and you have Sam in like the dumbest one yet. Like there's a scene where he's like, there's White Walkers crawling on top of him, and he's like crying, and then it cuts away from him, and then it cuts back to him 10 minutes later, and he's just like, like what? What?
I know.
So you get a lot of that, and then you have some minor character deaths, like Barrack, who, you know, is that really what he needed to stay alive for? Because the Hound probably could have saved Arya there too.
Yeah.
And then what's his name? Not Pip. The
Ed.
Ed.
Yeah.
Which was fine, but I think Jorah's death was pretty good, and I think Theon's death was incredible.
I think Theon's
probably one of the best moments in the
really
season.
good. Yeah.
That was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think the writers did well, was completing Theon's arc. I thought his arc was beautiful.
I know.
His death was amazing.
It was perfect. But then, yeah, you get to the part where the Night King is coming to kill Bran, who does absolutely nothing that entire time besides, I guess, look at the Night King through his birds.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, Arya just jumps out of the shadows, does the little knife thing, and kills him. And some people were like cheering when I watched that, and I was like, what the no.
Yeah. I had no words to watch that, just primarily because I just feel betrayed by the writers that so much of in the earlier seasons was foreshadowing Jon Snow versus the Night King. I mean, they had them stare down 3 times, and they're foreshadowing a huge fight between the two of them, and it just wasn't a fight at all. And this is Arya's first time fighting against this threat.
She has no connection to this storyline.
None whatsoever. And then they just totally retconned Melisandre's prophecy of the brown eyes, green eyes, blue eyes.
I know. And even if you want to like have Arya kill him in this episode, which is enough, I have problems with that enough. They could have at least written her getting to the point where she's in the grove with the tree, and like had it made sense, because last time we saw her, she was like what, in like the dungeons or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
You could have had it like maybe she gets pinned down, she's trapped there, and she sees Bran, and she's like, oh no, I don't know. You could have done something like that.
Yeah,
but instead she just Deus Ex Machinas out of nowhere.
Yeah, if only they could make it slightly more realistic, where part of me can at least believe that she was able to sneak past the army, the entire army, and all his lieutenants of White Walkers. But it's just, where does she come from? How did she get there?
I know. And it's just the overall, this was the threat. This is winter is coming.
Yeah.
The first scene in episode 1 is the White Walkers. They're building up to this. They had great moments. Like it was kind of like Thanos within the Marvel movies. Like you tease him a little bit here and there. He has moments. But they prove to you that Thanos is interesting and a compelling threat in Infinity War, and we should have gotten that in this season. Yeah. Instead, he shows up in just this episode and then dies right away.
I learned nothing about him.
And you think, maybe there would have been some twists. Maybe Bran does something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like he comes back, he's not actually dead, but he's completely forgotten, and they maybe mention it once in like the next episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the latter half of the season, I like a lot of it. I like the basic premises of what they established, the larger plot points. I don't really like how they got there. Like the idea of Daenerys turning into the Mad Queen. I think it's believable.
Yeah.
I think they could have done more to get her to that point so that it was universally believable, because a lot of Daenerys' like super fans say portrayed the character.
Yeah.
But they're clearly biased. But I mean, certain things that just completely went unanswered. What was the point of Jon being a Targaryen? Didn't seem like that was really fulfilled, and then the idea of why didn't Grey Worm just kill Jon right after he killed Daenerys? Why did everyone just listen to Tyrion at the end, and why did they vote Bran? It just wasn't compelling. Those certain plot points, and was the wheel truly broken? I guess there's going to be a council that elects the kings, but what if
the dragon symbolically burns down the throne?
Yeah, that was a beautiful moment, but just
does the dragon know?
Just how smart are these dragons? I know Tyrion mentions in, I think, season 5 that some maesters believe that dragons are smarter than humans, but like they kind of sprinkle that in. I mean, this dragon is a genius, able to understand abstraction, able to understand that this throne was the real source of all these problems, that the power is what corrupted Daenerys. It wasn't Jon who truly killed. I mean, that's advanced philosophical ideas that this dragon is able to understand.
Also, I don't think the dragon was there for most of the plot of Game of Thrones to fully
Exactly.
grasp.
How does this dragon know what the throne is? Was it sitting in on council meetings? Does Daenerys tell her dragons what she wants? It's just it was a beautiful moment, and the symbolism behind it was amazing. It's just, I don't buy it, you know?
I like the second half of season 8 more than the first half.
I do too.
But it's, like, there's certain moments that I like and make sense, but it's just how they get there. Like you mentioned, like, doesn't make much sense. Like, like Daenerys' turn, we discussed that in, I think, the last podcast. Especially me, I thought she was definitely going to turn evil. I thought she had problems as a moral ruler to begin with. But instead of, like, building to that in a smart way, which they could have done, it's sort of like, oh, Jon doesn't love me anymore, the people here will never love me, and that's an idea that would work, but all of a sudden it is like a flip of a switch, and then she murders the city, and then I don't know, like I think Bran becoming king like makes sense, and people have picked that apart where it's like, oh, like maybe as a king he would make dangerous sacrifices because he can see so far ahead in the future, and but like I don't care about that much. But it still had so much dumb stuff in like the last few episodes. Like why did we need to? Why was Arya even there? Like at the end, why the Clegane awesome. That and Theon's death were my two favorite moments. But again, like
they were up there for me too.
I didn't care about Clegane going into it. I'm like why does this need to happen? And I still feel the same way, but it ended up being a great moment. And then Jaime's and Cersei's death, which I think we should talk about.
Okay.
Because they die by rocks, holding each other in their arms.
Yeah.
And again, Jaime turning good and then coming back to Cersei, something that could make sense, but instead they just rush it. And flip of a switch doesn't really make much sense. Cersei, the villain that was like, oh, everyone's saying like, oh, it's the real villain. It's Game of Thrones, not Game of White Walkers. Like, okay. And then Cersei doesn't do anything in the entire season besides like stand and like look at the city and look a little like pissed the entire time.
She had Lena Headey, the actress, had 23 minutes of total screen time in the entirety of season 8.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of Jaime's plot line in season 8 I thought was well done. I think a lot of individual moments, at least, I really liked.
I love the Brienne thing.
The Brienne thing was really good. I think his goodbye with Tyrion when Tyrion freed him, I thought that was beautiful.
That was great.
And it's been foreshadowed that he was gonna die with Cersei. He says to Bronn earlier when Bronn asks him how he wants to die, Jaime says, "In the arms of the woman I love." And in the books, they think about it all the time, how Cersei and Jaime in their POV chapters saying that they came in this world together, that they'll leave the world together.
Yeah.
So it is foreshadowed, but it's tough when we as an audience want to see Cersei die in like some gruesome, satisfying way, and we want to see Jaime's character arc completed, and also the fact that in the last episode when Tyrion finds Jaime's dead body, there's no rocks 10 feet to the right, so just the logistics of if they moved 3 paces to the right they would have been okay. It's like little things like that where it's almost like the writers get lazy.
Yeah, and it just seems like a lot of the stuff would be like, oh, it'd be cool if we do this, like the woman, arms of the woman I love, like let's throw that in there.
Yeah, let's toss
and
that,
they did what they think was the fan service, I suppose. And I think doing things that aren't necessarily fan service are a good thing. Like that's kind of what the first 4 seasons were built on, was subverting your expectations, killing off your favorite characters. Exactly. But it did it in a way that made sense. And it's, like actions have consequences, that sort of thing. And everything that went wrong, which you might not have wanted to see happen, like the Red Wedding, you can at least see how it makes sense in the world. Yeah. But all of this stuff felt like, let's just get all these characters into this one spot because the fans want to see it, and then let's like have endings to these characters that kind of make sense with their arc, maybe. Yeah. But then they ended up rushing it. So I think the first half of season 8 is just poor writing decisions, and the second half is a little bit that, but mostly just rushed.
Yeah.
and doesn't give you room to breathe.
Yeah, they could have just split up season 8 into 10 episode seasons. 10 episode seasons. I think it would be received completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest complaints is that The Long Night lasted one episode. They could have. I mean, I guess they're crushed for time, so they're gonna make the death of the Night King easy. But imagine if they had 10 episodes for that entire conflict, they could have expanded out, brought it back to the White Walker's origin. Maybe a sacrifice would have had to been made. Make it this really cool, compelling. There's this big Azor Ahai reveal, and all these prophecies would have been paid off. If only Dan and Dave were just willing to like sacrifice a few more years.
Yeah,
and
maybe
put a few more years into the show. It would have been a lot different.
Even if they could have done it in the same amount of episodes, but if they also redid season 7 too, which is mostly like treading water.
Yeah, season 7 is a whole lot that goes nowhere.
Yeah, like they could have like put all of those last 13 episodes in a blender, mixed them up, and like kind of spread them out in a way that makes sense. And maybe it was a little fan servicey, maybe it was like less well written than the first few seasons, but it could have been really good still.
Yeah, I think so.
And what we got, I think, just was not bad or not good at all.
Yeah.
So then there's the ending, right? And honestly, that last episode is how I expected the show to end. Like, I don't have a problem with Daenerys dying in the first 20 minutes by Jon's hand. Like, that's kind of, it makes sense because you need to leave a certain amount of time for like the wrap up and the epilogues.
Yeah, I was worried we weren't going to get any of that, and I'm glad we did.
So I thought that was good, but then it reminded me of like Return of the King, where you just get like a lot of endings to the story, but again, it just feels unearned. Like there's a lot of these sentimental moments that I didn't feel anything because I'm like, I don't care how we got here. It was just not that good.
Yeah. Like Arya going westward.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of hinted at before. I think she said that right.
She mentioned it when she was in Bravos. Yeah.
I like this small council scene.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, you know, does Braun really need to be master of coin?
Yeah, and like really Lord of Highgarden? Like, I mean, he's now Lord Regent of the Reach. That Braun, I mean, come on. But I like where Jon ended up because I think that's what he truly desires, like a free life of just ranging in the north with his wolf and with the free folk. But the fact that he was the heir to the throne and they didn't even give him the opportunity to like deny or say that he didn't want the power and give them his own free choice to make the decision to go north, I felt weird. And why are they sending him to the Night's Watch? Why is there a Night's Watch? It's like little things like that. I know.
They didn't explore like what Jon was thinking during this part, because after he kills Daenerys, he doesn't do much besides say goodbye to his family. It's like I think that last episode could have been the exact same episode in a better season 8. Like they could have kept that episode and redid everything before it.
Yeah, and I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, like I think it's a good ending. It's just how you got there, and you're kind of like left thinking like, is that it?
Yeah.
And I think on IMDb that is like the worst rated episode in the show, which it's like I got a 4.3 out of 10.
Wow.
And I think all of the episodes, I think Long Night is like a 7.6 or something like that.
I think it's the lowest rated season. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I think Long Night's worse. I actually think that episode after Long Night was like, okay, maybe this will be interesting, where they kill Missandei and stuff. Grey Worm's reaction was like, I don't know, he does like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think the way people are getting angry over this season, like petition to remake the season, like come on.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
It's like they did a bad job. But like it's over. I think it's still a great show. Still one of my favorites. It is a big stain on its reputation for me.
It's tough.
It does. I think maybe it knocks the show overall from like a 9.5 to maybe like a strong 8 or something like that.
I don't know about that much. I mean, the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones are remarkable. Even season 6 is amazing.
It's kind of like the thing with The Office. By the time you get through the good seasons, you care so much that you just want to keep going.
Exactly.
I will say Office is a better finale than this, though.
Yeah, but the stakes aren't as high in like a sitcom.
Like,
yeah. So it's almost apples and oranges. But,
it's easier for them to succeed.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah. So, Dave, what would you rate this season? Final thoughts.
Do you want me to give it a rating out of 10 or compared to other seasons?
Yeah, out of 10.
Let's see. All right. So if season 4 is my favorite.
Yeah, rate every season.
Okay. So if season 4, my favorite season is a 9.7.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I would say season 8. I'd give it a 6.
Okay.
I wouldn't go lower than a 6 in that. I mean overall, I like the majority of the large plot points.
Sure.
I just don't like how we arrived there.
Yeah.
And I think the acting, the cinematography, the production value, the editing, and the music still make it great. It pushes it above a 5, so I'd say a 6.
Okay.
For season 8, and I actually like season 8 more than season 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Season 8 is not my least favorite.
Huh. Yeah, I'd say season 1 and 2 are 9s. I'd say seasons 3 and 4 are 10s.
Okay.
I'd say season 5 and 6 are 8s. I'd say season 6 or season 7 is a 6.
Okay.
And season 8 is like a 4.
Wow.
Yeah, like I think that 4 comes from there being good moments throughout and still characters that I like for the most part. But overall, for them to really tank it that hard, it's such a shame.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's tough.
all right. Well, those are our thoughts
Yeah.
on the final season of Game of Thrones. Went out like that, I guess.
Yeah.
What a shame. But
Yeah.
Dave, thanks for
On
coming
that
on.
happy note, thanks for having me. I love doing it.
Yeah, hopefully next time you're on, we can talk about something we liked a lot
That
more.
we enjoyed, yeah.
But yeah, until next time, I should have a few more episodes out throughout the summer, so keep an eye on for that. But yeah, I'm Hank Michaels. See you guys. Bye.